All right, welcome to Double Fries No Slaw. Sunday evening, August 18th. Richie, because there's a week zero game, we finally have football. We've come a long way. We've talked about how quick this offseason has felt, but yeah, it is. I feel like this week is going to fly. Both of us being out of the country. Richie's not far behind me. I'm doing this from a hotel in London, so hopefully my service is halfway decent for you guys. But man, Richie, it's been a fun weekend so far. I can't wait for you to get over here. But how's your weekend been, man?
It's been good, man. It's just a lot of preparing. We are procrastinators, and we probably will not be prepared until we leave for the airport tomorrow or Monday. For those of you listening to this on the podcast format, cannot wait. I'm super excited. It is game week. We are literally less than a week away, 6 days if you're watching live, 5 days if you're listening on the podcast. Till Florida State football live in Dublin, Ireland against Georgia Tech, opening up ACC play. I cannot wait, TJ.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Hey, let's jump right into it because I don't know how long this Wi-Fi is going to last. But Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee, also presented by BetUS. We'll talk about them in just a moment. Appreciate them and Guthrie's for their support. Guthrie's, if you're still in the States and close to Tallahassee, 1818 West Tennessee, 2550 North Monroe, and 2870 Appalachian Parkway. Richie, depth chart came out today. We'll talk a little early Georgia Tech. We'll make some bold predictions. But I'll do this and then we'll get started. I've had an interesting, like, what would it be, like 72 hours. So I'm going to tell you about it and the listeners about it, and then we're going to move on and actually talk about football because that's what I think people want to hear about. But either way, they can hear this. So on Thursday night, we went to the FSU women's soccer game. They won 5-0. So shout out Coach Penske and the ladies, defending national champs. I believe they're playing right now. So we're trying to go 2-0 to start the season. And then because we got home super late, the game was good, whatever. But we get home late, we packed, we get ready, and it's like 1 a.m., right? And so go to bed at like 1, way too late to get up at like 5 to fly out of Orlando. My car's parked at Richie's house right now, hopefully still. Or it was 2 days ago.
Still there.
Yeah, thank the Lord. We leave at 6 a.m. to get to Orlando by 8, 10 a.m. flight up to New York, 4-hour layover, get to Dublin, fly to London from Dublin, check into the hotel, sleep for like 2 hours, and then go to the Taylor Swift concert last night, which I certainly got enough crap for on Twitter, but it was phenomenal. And I don't care if you're a hater. That's fine. Shake it off, right? So did that, came home, passed out, crashed, went to bed. And then today, honestly, we slept till like noon. We slept till noon London time, which it was just 7 a.m. our time. So like that's not that big of a deal, I guess. Slept till noon, went to the Chelsea-Man City match, and then like did all the tourist things, Buckingham Palace and Westminster Abbey and Big Ben and all that. So I'm exhausted. I literally just said all that to just say, like, it's been a crazy 2 days, and I can't believe we have another week of this left. But I feel like your weekend's probably not been that crazy, right? You've just been watching golf and stuff.
No, quick update for the live listeners. Brooks Koepka just defeated John Rahm in a playoff to win Live Greenbrier. So just, a little Florida State love right there. Brooks, nice to see him get back in the winner's circle.
So if you're coming to Dublin, if you're going to hang out, there is there's plenty to do, but we will get together on Friday afternoon at noon. The bar is called Porterhouse in Temple Bar. They're in Dublin. We put a picture up on social media. I'll put it on Instagram when we get done with this as well. Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere else. Maybe we'll even put it on YouTube for those that just listen here. But if you're coming to Dublin, come hang out with us on Friday at noon. Doug Rohan will be there. Some of the guys from Garnet and Old will be there. And we should have a lot of fun. All right, let's talk about this depth chart, Richie, that came out today. Harlan, if you'll throw that up on the screen, and that's a good endpoint for a video. But depth chart comes out. We can run through it real quick. Honestly, I thought the depth chart would come out on Monday. I thought that'd be a little bit more likely for a game week. But Coach Norvell blesses us with a Sunday depth chart. Anything surprise you on this? Anything you were not expecting? Anything you want to talk about?
I guess let's start offense and then go defense. Obviously, we knew DJ would be the starter. I don't think anybody's surprised with Roy Dell and Lawrence Toffoli starting. Benson Brown Douglas, pretty expected. Same with Morlock. I guess the only thing that surprised me, if I'm looking this right, is Robert Scott. not in the starting lineup.
Well, he's
Based
an
on
or. He's an
he,
or.
he is an or, but Byers listed ahead of him on the or, but maybe that's last name alphabetical order. I'm not sure, but offensively, I don't really see any surprises. We'll talk defense in a second, but in just looking at the depth chart, man, I like what this offense has the potential to be. There's not a lot of proven production out there, but there's a ton of potential. And I love having a guy like Ja'Kai Douglas listed there, who is just Mr. Reliable, who has made big plays in big games. You go back to, the 2021 Notre Dame game in Tallahassee, had that like 90-yard touchdown. He's just Mr. Reliable. But then when you add the speed factor of Benson and Brown, man, I like the potential of this offense a lot. Richie Leonard getting the starting job at left guard. The transfer from UF, I like that. Like I said, it's hard to say this offense is going to be elite because we have no idea. But this offense has the potential to be very, very good, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I think that's right. Right, like the offense should be better than average, and at worst, it's just slightly above average. Right, like it's average
Yeah.
to slightly
I
above.
think it's better than last year was.
Yeah, I can't foresee a situation where we're not able to um, get some pretty good production out of it. Yeah, Robert Scott. I mean, it's a little covered up there on the screen. You can't see it, but Robert Scott is listed as an or on the right tackle with Byers ahead of him. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to see any combination of Keandre Jones, TJ Ferguson
Yeah.
at right guard, and then Byers and Scott at right tackle. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if you see him rotate a little bit. I think Alex Atkins, what I've been told is Alex Atkins and Robert Scott are extremely close. I don't want to say that there's like favoritism, but I think Alex Atkins really, really likes Robert Scott and wants to kind of give him every chance possible. I know Scott's dealt with some things off the field, nothing to do with himself. He's battled back from an injury. He's had some different things going on. And so hopefully this is the year that he can stay healthy. He can put it all together and get out there and be a pretty productive piece for Florida State. I mean, Robert Scott was listed and mentioned as like a day one or two guy when he first got to Florida State, and like a guy that could project up that high. And I certainly don't think that Robert Scott's there anymore, but a guy that you would like to, I mean, you'd like to get something out of before his final year of football is done. Other side of the line, Richie Leonard, maybe a little bit of a surprise. I wouldn't have been surprised if you saw Keandre and TJ Ferguson kind of be both your guards, but for Richie Leonard to jump up and be able to be in that starting lineup. I mean, I know there was a lot of talk about, when he left Florida and not being any good and this, that, and the other. And, I don't know that Richie Leonard would have started this year. I think that Florida likes their interior. I think their tackles are absolute dog crap, but I do think they like their interior a lot. But Richie Leonard, for the first time, in his college career, will have good coaching now. And so I think that'll help, having a good offensive line coach that doesn't just suck, right? You got two guys over there that can't figure out what the heck they're doing. That'll help him a ton. Also being in a good strength and conditioning program. Everybody that leaves Florida talks about how bad that strength and conditioning program was. Damn, Bill Napier will tell you how bad it was. He's gone through 2 strength and conditioning coordinators just this offseason. So, yeah, I think that if Richie Leonard can just improve a little bit, he still had more snaps than anyone else on UF's offensive line. So, again, they can kind of talk all the crap they want about that. I think he's finally in a good position to be able to maybe produce. Jaylen Brown, a little bit of a start, a little bit of a surprise maybe. Like if you go to the 3 wide receivers and, Benson and Douglas, I don't think surprises anybody. For Jaylen Brown to be there, I mean, he certainly made some plays and he certainly had some big moments. I think we've talked about this. You've got like 5 or 6, like 2 or 3s, right, on the roster. You'd like to see Hakeem be able to work his way up there, at some point through this year, being a former 5-star. You think about Hakeem as being a little bit bigger than he is. I mean, he really, 6'2", he's kind of in there with just being a tad bit bigger than even Jaylen Brown is. So Hakeem's not like some massive, framed guy. I mean, he certainly put on some bulk there, but, I think that your top three pass catching targets are going to be Benson, Douglas, and Morlock, and then Jaylen Brown kind of slotted in there too as kind of your deep threat burner type. So I don't know. I'm not ready to sell on the wide receiver group, but we have certainly talked about our thoughts on that room and hoping that we can kind of be surprised with the play that we get out of that. Let's talk a little bit about okay. I see a couple of comments about this, and then we'll move on. Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, this is Armelo's 3rd season, is that right?
Yeah.
not making the two deep. I mean, yeah, I mean, you certainly hope. I mean, there was talk of, him potentially not being even on the roster, post spring. Um, yeah, I mean, our, his name was never one we mentioned in a practice report. It was never one we mentioned as kind of standing out or making an impact. So probably shouldn't be too surprising, right? Like the guys that we didn't talk about all of spring and all of fall, they're not on the depth chart for the
There's
most
a
part.
reason for that. Yeah.
the guy the guys making plays are the ones that are there. So yeah, I agree. It's a little discouraging. Year three still not there, but you would hope that maybe you can get it a little bit, get a little burn this year, and then maybe next year being what his senior year, or would it be redshirt junior? I'm sure he redshirted 1 year. Redshirt junior year, he could kind of make some noise and be kind of an upperclassman for you. So, all right, let me give a little love, Harlan, to Bet US, and then we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball, Richie. Bet US, you can go there right now. You can bet on the over on Florida State's win total. It's a bet I've already placed. You can see me placing the bet there on the screen right now, over 9.5. I love it. BetUS has a 125% deposit match right now, up to $2,000. That's on your first 3 deposits. So if you deposit 500 today and 1,000 tomorrow, and then 500 the next day, you get that 125% match on all 3 deposits, up to $2,000. They have great customer service. Their website's super easy. They've got more bets on college football than most sites out there that you'll find. Customer service is great. Website's really easy. Go check them out. BetUS. Link is in the description. All right, defensively, Richie, I'll toss you kind of the same question I asked you a second ago. Any surprises over there that you weren't expecting?
Just looking ahead, no surprises on the defensive line whatsoever. One surprise to me is, we've heard great things about Cam Riley, so I'm not surprised to see his name at the top. But seeing the or with Blake Nicholson, that's encouraging to me because, I mean, he was obviously an ultra talented player coming out of high school. We knew he would take some time, but now he's showing that he could potentially be a starter on what I project to be at minimum a top 15 defense in the country, top 20 at worst. That's very encouraging. Seeing Kevin Knowles with Earl Little is a little surprising. I thought Earl Little had done enough to lock up that starting job solo, but again, just looking at this depth chart all around, we knew it was going to be Fentrell and AZ Thomas at corner. Yeah, man, just looking at the depth chart, not just the starters, but the people behind them has me feeling very confident about what this defense has the potential to be. And unlike the offense, you have a lot of proven talent. Darrell Jackson, obviously, did not play last year outside of the Orange Bowl, which whatever. So, but he's probably up some of the most NFL potential of anyone on the defense altogether. So honestly, not many surprisings. I guess the biggest surprise, we brought in Sean Murphy from Alabama, thought he was going to be a contributor, especially at a position that, you had underwhelming talent at compared to the rest of the roster. To not even see his name on the depth chart was extremely disappointing to me. Just my opinion on that one.
Yeah, and he was another one that we, I'll say this, like in any of the scrimmage reports we talked about or any of the depth chart stuff that we talked about, who was standing out in fall camp, like just wasn't a name that was brought up to me consistently. Now, again, I'll not act like I've seen every practice and certainly haven't been out to any, right? Like I'm, not, Brendan or Chris or Ira or anything that's out there at every single practice. But just based on what I had been told, I honestly, his name, I don't think was mentioned once to me here during fall. Actually, I'll take that back. It was mentioned once as like, man, he's really just up and down, like zero, not a lot of consistency. And so I don't know. We don't get on here and try and like crap on kids when we're doing like scrimmage updates. We just try and tell you stood out and had a good one. Like you tell everybody like, oh yeah, this guy's dog crap or anything. Like I don't know. That's just not our MO. So yeah. So his name was actually mentioned a little bit, but just not in a great way. I mean, you're not going to hit on every portal guy, right? And so, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's a miss because there are certainly guys that have been hits later on in their time here after coming through the portal. But I'd be pretty surprised if Murphy had much of an impact this year to not be on the depth chart behind, a lot of guys. And again, I think there's less talent. There's less overall talent at linebacker than there is wide receiver, I think. Yeah. And I don't mean to, at least wide receiver, like you feel really good about some of the young guys. You feel good about Benson. Linebacker feels like it's Lundy and then everybody else. I mean, that's not me taking a crap on like Nicholson or Cam Riley or Omar Graham or anybody like that. But um, I think to not even be able to work your way into that grouping is a little concerning. Kevin Knowles, yeah, like somebody who was mentioned to me a ton over the last week or two, as really having a good fall. So I'm not. I guess I'm not super surprised there, but also like I think Kevin Knowles had a pretty good camp last year, pretty good fall camp, and then like fell back down, and so full. What's the saying, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But if a guy has a good camp, you can't not put him out there, right? Like that. So like, what are you gonna do? Like you have a great camp and say like, well, you weren't very good in the regular season last year. I expect those guys to rotate a ton. I expect there to be situations where they're both in. I expect Earl Little to get a ton of burn, and these are so much fun to break down. These are fun to look at. But when you really talk about like what this is going to be, I'm not going to be surprised at all if Earl Little is the starting nickelback on play one, and then Kevin Knowles is in there 2 plays later, or if the inverse happens, like if
Yeah.
Georgia, like so it's to me a position like that is not like Lundy. Like if Lundy wasn't listed as a starter, you'd be like, dude, what the heck? Like the nickel corner is something that you're going to see a ton of both guys. Man, Florida State loves Quindarius Jones, who's right behind Fentrell Cypress. Like they think he is going to be like elite here. And so I'm really excited about him. I know he's a young guy. I know that, you may see him in spots, but they like him a ton. I mean, Richie's completely correct in them liking their defensive line, certainly the starters a lot. I'll echo the idea of liking the edge depth more than I like the defensive tackle depth. I think we talked about that a little bit when we were grading the position groups. I like Lolo Hea behind Peyton, and I like Byron Turner behind Marvin Jones Jr. I like both those guys a ton. I'm a little less confident in the guys behind Jackson and Farmer. That's not to say that I don't think they can play. I need to see it. I need to see that drop off not be there. And of course, there's going to be some drop off. Those are two of the best defensive linemen in the conference and the country. But yeah, no major surprises. Maybe the Sean Murphy thing is a surprise. Like looking back to what was it? Spring, because I think we all expected him to be in there. But I mean, I'm glad that Cam Riley has come in and in a very short amount of time, right? He got here over the summer, if I remember correctly. In a very short amount of time has been able to kind of rise up. I mean, that's either a really good thing or that linebacker room is really, really bad. And that's how he was able to do it. So probably somewhere in the middle of those two. So any final thoughts? I saw Jalen Lucas and Roydell Williams back there at kick. I saw Malik Benson at punt return, specialist, all kind of make sense. Who's your first person to take a kick back for a touchdown, punt or kick this year?
Oh, it's got to be Jalen Lucas. I was watching the video of him from Indiana against Purdue just yesterday. And, man, he's a guy that you have all these big-ass, large human beings running down the field, and he just gets lost in the shuffle. And before you know it, you're like, oh, crap, he's gone. Like, he's gone at that point. I do think there will be a house call, at least maybe 2 or 3 this year, and I definitely think Jalen Lucas gets at least one of them.
I'm with it. Yeah, I think Jalen Lucas is kind of my easy pick as well. So, all right, let me give a little love to Garnet and Gold, and then we'll talk a little bit about this Georgia Tech game. GarnetandGold.com. If you're already in Dublin or if you're coming over later this week, make sure that you put your order in at GarnetandGold.com. Use our code NOSLAW, NOSLAW, for 15% off. You can get all the latest Nike, Columbia, whatever merch you're looking for, whatever gear, swag you're looking for. They've got the green stuff if you're coming over to Dublin, or if you just want to be supportive of where Florida State is playing this week, go check out garnetandgold.com. We appreciate them for their support. You can always shop in store, but if you are local to Tallahassee, you can pick up in store and use our code to save 15%, NOSLAW. Richie, let's talk a little bit about Georgia Tech. Let's kind of share some early thoughts there. Are you what are you most concerned about with Georgia Tech? Maybe is the best place to start that. I'll kind of grill you on this and see where your head's at on it.
I think for me is Hayden King. He's actually a sneaky runner. I do think I jokingly tweeted out. I saw a video of a tennis player going nuts, breaking his racket at a match over the weekend. And said,
Yeah,
that's going to be me. That's going to be me when Haynes King, scrambles for a 3rd and 13 for a first down. I do think you have to account for that. I think that's something that's important to do. I love the matchups, but you have a defensive line that has not really played together. Farmar Jackson played together in high school, but not in college, and they didn't play together last year. You bring in Marvin Jones Jr., Pat Payton. You think he's Mr. Reliable. I think Pat Payton will be that one solid guy no matter what, even when things are going bad. I really like what Pat Payton's going to do. But I think the scrambling ability you have to factor in there. And maybe I just have PTSD from that Boston College game last year when Castellanos just did whatever he wanted at the most inopportune times for Florida State. They have a really good running back. We're going to do a show Wednesday, guys, a full preview across the pond, our first ever European podcast where we're both there. Looking forward to that. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Defensively, I think you have so many new pieces with Florida State offensively that you're not sure what to expect. But I trust Mike Norvell. I think the offense is going to do enough to win. Can the defense just handle those little small things? Not let him turn a 3rd and 13 into a first down, turn it into a 4th and 6, and make Brent Key make a decision at that point. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing. I do think it's going to be a tough game. I don't think it's going to be easy. If this were last year, I think Florida State probably wins this game by 20 plus. But with so many new pieces, again, TJ, I do think this will be a tough game. I think Florida State can win, and I think they can cover. But there's a lot of unknowns, and that's kind of the part that makes you nervous about it. And maybe it's just Georgia Tech thinking about, so glad this game that Georgia Tech was willing to give up the game in Atlanta to send it over to Dublin. That makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, I as a season ticket holder, I'm first of all thankful that we're not going to lose a home game, but also just the idea of not going to Atlanta is pretty elite. Sorry for all the great folks that live in Atlanta, but yeah, I am good if Florida State never plays another sporting event of any kind there ever again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Like, I guess my biggest concern is just how quickly it takes for the I'm concerned about how quickly the offense can kind of like acclimate and get going and get up and rolling. But honestly, like Georgia Tech's defense was so bad last year. And when I spoke with, I saw somebody ask if we do anything with like Georgia Tech folks this week. And yeah, probably yes. Like if we can make the timing work with both me and Richie being over here in the UK, like we'll see what we can do. But yeah, I mean, their defense is so bad. And I had Chad Bishop on College Football Addiction, the national channel. And yeah, I mean, his take was like, yeah, I mean, well, it's one of those things where it can't get any worse, right? And so, but as we found out, like if you have a bad, it can get worse. Like it absolutely can. Like they think it's going to be better, and they brought in new pieces on the defense and new coaches, and sometimes that takes time to acclimate. So like it would surprise me, Richie, if even, I mean, I mean, DJU has been very inconsistent, like up and down for sure. Like I'll give that to people, but like he's not just been like terrible. Like DJU's not like the guy that's going to go out and throw 5 interceptions in a game and no touchdown. Like he's going to make some plays too. And so like even if he does like have some mistakes or doesn't get off to the best start or we have some drops at wide receiver, it would surprise me if Florida State didn't score at least 24-28 in this game. Like, is that fair? Like if we get held under 20, I think I'd be shocked. Right. And we've certainly been shocked by stuff before, but I just think offensively, like you're in such a good place. I guess and then I look at the other side of the ball too. And maybe this is just pure garden gold Homer, drinking all the Kool-Aid, but I look at the other side of the ball too. And I'm just like, man, this defense like would really have to shock me to not, I'm not saying shut down Haynes King, but like, what they did last year, and I know Verse is gone and Green is gone, but they replaced those guys with a lot of talent too. Yeah. And you replaced a Jared Verse with a Marvin Jones Jr. You replaced a Renardo Green with an Azariah Thomas, and you replaced Fintrell Cypress stepping in for Jarian Jones, and I would be surprised if Georgia Tech was able to move the ball consistently. I think the biggest worry, I guess, would be if they were able to just keep it close. Like, Mario gets so much crap for the kneel down. rightfully so, right? Like rightfully so, gets so much crap for the kneel down against Georgia Tech. But what he kind of skates by on is the fact that Miami was a 2+ touchdown favorite at home. Like that game shouldn't have been a 3-point game when they ended up losing late. Like that game should have been, they should have been up by way more than that. And so to me, that's, almost as big of an issue as the kneel down was leaving it so close. And so that's what Florida State needs to do. Like they need this to not be a 4-point game in the fourth quarter, right? And if it is, you've got the ball and maybe you're driving to make it a 2-score game, but which the spread is 11. So, maybe that would work out. But yeah, I think that if you leave them around, they're a team that's confident enough. And I don't think, the worst thing you can do is increase that confidence. I don't think Georgia Tech comes into the game thinking like, oh man, we got no shot against the mighty Seminoles. I think they would have thought that last year. I think last year they'd have been like, oh man, this is not going to be our day. This year, I do think they'll be confident. And so does that translate into a Georgia Tech win? Probably not, but it is football and weird things happen. And, we've lost as 11-point favorites before and we've won as 11-point underdogs. Like that's not a massive spread. Like, BC, you don't want to count every chicken before it hatches, but we're not going to lose to BC. The Georgia Tech game, I don't think we lose either, but certainly don't want to act like it's impossible to lose. So if the offense isn't clicking early, Richie, like I do trust the defense to hold Georgia Tech down until it gets there. And if the defense and offense are both clicking early because the defense really, really good and because Georgia Tech's defense is so bad, it could get ugly early. Like I'm not saying it will, but like if both sides are kind of going to start, like, yeah, it could be a 21-10 game at halftime that you just never really see get close after that.
Yeah, and I think you could easily make an argument that these are the two best coaches in the ACC. People are going to say, oh, Dabo. Yeah, Dabo's a great coach. I know he's won 2 national titles. He's not adapted to the new era of college football, but I can certainly see an argument for Dabo at number 1, but I think you could absolutely make an argument that, between Norvell and Key, these are 2 of, at the very least, top 5 coaches in the league. Georgia Tech is going to be a well-coached football team. They've had all season. They've prepared. They're going to be ready. Like any Florida State fan that comes up to me or tells me we're going to blow them out, I just say no, pump the brakes, man, because I do think it will be a tough game. I think it's a game you should win. Again, we'll get into more of the details and intricacies about it on Wednesday, but Florida State needs to come prepared. Your C game is a game that could lose this game being the first game of the season. I'd feel a lot better playing Georgia Tech in week 8 than week 0, but I still feel confident in week 0. But again, this team is going to be prepared, and it is not going to be some sort of cupcake or easy W.
I really like the way that Norvell has had his team pretty ready to start seasons.
Yeah.
Right. And I think
Ask
that's
Brian Kelly.
Yeah. And yeah, he usually had a much weaker coach to go up against. Shots fired. But yeah, Notre Dame 21, LSU. Who did we play to start the year in 2020? So I don't even remember that. And that year doesn't.
I don't either. That year doesn't count.
Yeah. But I like the way that we've started seasons. Also, when you said like anybody that comes up to you and says that Florida State's just going to blow the other team out, like you don't want to hear it, like don't talk to me after like 3 or 4 Guinnesses on Saturday then, because I will certainly be in that mood by about that time. But it was Georgia Tech in 2020, and we blew a lead late, so never mind. I'll take it all back. No, cut. Harlan, get us out of here.
Harlan, cut this out.
I like the way we've started seasons, and I don't know how much I hold 2020 against anybody, but yeah, the Notre Dame game. I mean, Duquesne in 2022, and then obviously LSU, and then obviously LSU last year. I like the way that they have guys prepared. Obviously, this is the most healthy that Florida State will likely be all year. I think all that helps, all that matters, and I know you lost some talent, but you're playing a much weaker team than you played the last 2 years to open this thing up. And I mean, if you don't come out ahead, like there's no scenario that I could see where I'd be okay with a loss. Like this is a game that Vegas thinks you're 10 points plus better. Everyone in the national media thinks you're better. Georgia Tech would admit that you're the better team too. Better teams lose at times. Like that certainly does happen. But it needs to not happen this weekend. You need to get off to a good start. And I think they will, right? All that said, I think they do get off to a good start. Bold predictions. These are my favorite. Richie, do you remember what your bold predictions were last year? I'm going to see if I can search my note real quick and see what I see what I had, but bold predictions for the 2024 season.
I don't
Last
remember,
year, I
but
think I had the.
I think I hit on all of them.
I can't find mine right now, but whatever they were, I probably hit on them. Just knowing me, it's probably safe
I
to
mean, when you
say.
go 13-0 and win the conference, we probably hit on our predictions.
Okay. Oh, now this was 2022. All right, never mind. I can't find 2023s, but 2022 I went 2 out of 3. I remember that. So, um, what's your first one? Let's get started.
All right, so the first one, and I don't know how bold this is, but again, with so much unknowns around the entire offense, I have Roydell Williams and Lawrence Philly combining for 1,500
Ooh,
all-purpose yards. All-purpose yards.
all
So
purpose.
yes, all-purpose. Um, I think Roydell legit has a chance to be 1,000-yard back. Just knowing Mike Norvell wants to run the ball, and Philly's going to be used a lot in the passing game. And he's still going to have probably at least 300 to 400 rushing yards. So I have 1,500 yards between just Roydell and Philly, not even counting the stable you have behind them with guys like a Jalen Lucas, who's probably going to be used more in the passing game, a Singleton, everyone else that you have in that backfield. But I do think it's going to be a Roydell Williams, Lawrence Philly heavy running game. And if you're looking at backs out of the backfield, it's definitely Philly.
So, I got a quarterback one for you. I wanted to do like 15 quarterback ones, but then I had to like kind of change it up so that I wasn't just doing DJ Uyunglele for every single stat. Um, I've got DJU. I'm going to say he outplays Cam Ward down in Miami. Whether that's whether that's a combination of like more yards and more touchdowns, or a better completion percentage, and maybe he has less touchdowns but more yards. I'm going to go less turnover. Like, obviously that's a very vague thing, but if he has 400 yards and 2 touchdowns and Cam Ward has 250 yards and 4, like, I'm going to lean DJU. I'm going to say that he outplays him. Like, for all the talk about Cam Ward, DJU, Uyunglele outplays Cam Ward, gets a win, and he also has 4 total touchdowns against Clemson. So I'm going to combine, like, to make it a little tougher, a little bolder. 4 touchdowns anyway, run, pass, kick return, whatever, however you get him, you get him. 4 touchdowns against Clemson, kind of a coming out game against them, and he outplays Cam Ward down in Miami. So there's my DJU one. Dude, Pate does this, and I'm not just trying to steal his, but how high, like, how 1 out of 10, how bold is that?
I'd say an 8, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. Like, it's not.
I just think Mike is going to want to have a run first offense. I think almost, and I don't have this, a bold prediction would be like DJ has like 10 rushing touchdowns, because I could see that. I could see that because I think Mike is, again, we talk about the 1-year rentals. I think he did want to protect Jordan Travis. I'm not saying he doesn't care about DJ's health or anything like that, but I'm saying DJ's body is built much more to take on that impact, that if you're looking at, 3rd and goal from the 2 or 3, just give it to DJ. Let him go to work. He's 250 pounds. Why not use him? So I could see 10 plus touchdowns. Again, not a bold prediction of mine, but just something that sparked my mind because I did not have a quarterback bold prediction on my list.
So we'll snake this. I'll go with a defensive one, and then I'll snake it back to you, and then you can do 2, and then I'll finish. But last year, we had team leader in interceptions was I just had it in front of me, and now I don't see it. Was Jarian Jones with 3. The year before that was Greedy Vance with 3. The year before that was, anybody know, Jamie Robinson with 4. So it's been 2 years since we had a 4 interception leader. I'm going to go bold prediction. We get that again. The leader in interceptions on defense, no matter who that is, whether that's AZ Thomas, Fintrell, whoever, the leader on defense in interceptions has 4 this year, matching the 2022 total. I think somebody just has a standout year. I'd lean AZ Thomas. Wouldn't surprise me if it's like Earl Little in the nickel, or if it is a safety. Like, they love Conrad Hussey a ton back there. But I'd lean AZ Thomas, but a defensive back has 4 picks this year for the first time since 2022.
I like it, and I could definitely see that. I love this secondary. We've talked about it the past month on this show, TJ. The secondary, you're not concerned about the talent or depth. It's all there. For me, and this might be a little too bold, but I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm actually drinking wine, but I'm drinking the Kool-Aid right now on Cam Riley. 100+ tackles this year. I just think he's going to be an every down player. He's someone who you can keep in on third down and trust him enough in coverage that you don't have to be concerned to take him out. I think Lundy's a guy you probably take out of the game on third down. I think Cam Riley has a chance to be a star in this defense. Adam Fuller has proven me wrong. Year one, I wanted him gone. Now I think he's one of the top 5 to 10 defensive coordinators in the country. Probably going to get a head coaching job in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe sooner. And if he does, that's a good thing for Florida State because that means the defense is performing at a premium level. So I'm expecting a really big year out of Cam Riley. I really am. Any thoughts on that before I go on my last one?
Yeah, I think that's hot. I'm not saying that Cam Riley doesn't have a great year, but I think that's a bold one. I think that's like 9.
He tackles the game.
Yeah. So I think you're going to need the extra games to get it done, right? You're going to have to get to 13 and then playoff game or 2. I looked it up real quick. Florida State hasn't had a guy have 100 or more tackles since 2019. That was Hamza Nasruddin. They did have Jamie Robinson get 99 2 years ago, so really, really close.
But I mean, Jamie was in that's insane.
Jamie was in on everything, and
he was a dog.
Also got the extra game with the bowl game against Oklahoma, so he did it. Well, we didn't play the ACC championship. So yeah, he just had 13. If Cam Riley could play 14, the championship in a bowl, or your 12 and 2 playoffs, or your 12, it could help. But yeah, I think that's hot. I think that's bold since it hasn't been done since 2019. And even
these are bold predictions. So
dude, that's what I'm saying. I think it's bold. I think you nailed it.
In my last one, Florida State is bringing home some hardware this year in the meaning of the Ray Guy Award. Alex Malstromano is going to win the Ray Guy Award this year. I think he probably had an argument last year to do it, but now he has the name recognition after last season. Florida State's not going to be punting a ton, hopefully, but when they do, man, they have an extreme weapon. And I just think if Florida State wins 10 games or more, like I think they probably have a chance to, and his numbers mirror what they were last year, he's got a very good chance to win it. Florida State, and more importantly, Alex Mastromanno wins the Ray Guy Award.
Last year, I think I had a bold prediction that Alex Atkins would still be on staff this year. So I do want credit for that one, because I didn't know all that stuff. I didn't know. I mean, I knew that there was investigation stuff going on, but I didn't know exactly how that would go on. Maybe I knew a little bit. Yeah, maybe I'm lying to myself. But yeah, I just thought about that. Also, just very quickly, I'm not very concerned. I'm not concerned at all with him not coaching in that game. My last bold prediction might be that Alex Atkins walks around with a mask on, and so nobody knows that's him. They're on the sidelines. Stands next to Ron Dugans as his assistant. No, I'll go kicking as well. All right, so this one I think is bold. Fitzgerald went 19 for 21 last year, 90.5%. That was after just a not great 2022.
That's being nice.
Yeah, he went 12 for 20. So he made 7 more kicks on one more attempt. Percentage that year was 60%. Last year, again, 90.5. He was phenomenal. Made every single point after. I'm going to say he improves on that. I'm going to say he is higher than 90.5%. So he either needs to kick more field. We scored a lot of touchdowns last year, so his field goals weren't super high. I'm going to say he gets better than 90.5%. I'm knocking on wood. I love Fitzgerald, so that's not me like talking crap. I'm less confident in it than I would be about your what is it?
100 tackle for Cam Riley.
Yeah, or Ray Guy. I think Mastromanno is a little bit more of a lock, but yeah, I'll say he improves on it. I'll also say he has more points than he had last year. Last year he had 115, steady climb all 3 years that he was the main kicker, 67, 93, 115. I say he beats the 115 and beats the 90.5. So lock that one up. That would be the one that I'm most happy about, though, because if Fitzgerald's scoring a lot, that's good news.
Yeah, because
You're
there's
gonna
been
have a
some close
lot of
games
point
this year.
afters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's been some close games, and if he's over 90% kicking, that means you're winning those 50-50 games.
yeah.
And that's huge. So I would love for that bold prediction to come true. And
It
we'll
was a
definitely
big
revisit these in December.
it was a big time weapon last year to be able to
Yeah.
have him, and he was really good for the Noles, and you needed him to be really good. If not, man, like he was big in shoot he made a field goal against Florida if I remember correctly, right? He actually no he went 3 for 3 against Florida, or no 3 for 3 extra points. He went 1 for 1 against Florida. He missed one against Wake in a game that you won by 40, and he did miss one against Louisville, but he hit 3 other ones against Louisville. Like he was the leading
Yeah.
scorer in the Louisville game with 11 total points. I'm sorry, with 10 total points, 3 field goals and an extra point. So yeah, you had to have that, right? You had to have the performance he gave you, and then he was leading scorer the next week too. So all right, let's move on from that. I like the bold predictions. If you're watching this on replay, if you're listening to it, make sure that you give us your bold predictions as well. We'd love to hear them down in the comments. Richie, you leave tomorrow. You are back to or back on this side of the pond over here with me. By the time you get to Tuesday, what are you most looking forward to when you get here?
Honestly, playing golf with the wife in Scotland. I found a course right off the cliffs. We'll be playing right off the Atlantic Ocean. It's going to be a blast. We're doing that. We have a 6-hour bus tour throughout the entire country of Scotland before flying to Ireland. We're doing the Guinness tour. I think you're with us on that one. The game, obviously, we're looking forward to that. But for me, in the me, TJ, and people that listen to me or follow me, they know my passion for golf. I just cannot wait. I've seen the pictures. I just can't wait to get out and see it physically and just walk 18 holes. I've always had a cart, just walking the 18 holes. It's going to be fun, but also meeting up with so many Florida State fans. I have a guest relations employee that I worked with who just retired. Her and her husband are going to be out there, and we're meeting up with her over in Ireland. Awesome. I just think that's going to be cool. Just the Seminole family, when you see the way it works and everyone comes together. Like, yeah, we worked together. We found out she graduated from Florida State in the 70s and I graduated in 2010. It's just a family of the Florida State nature, but it's the golf, TJ. It's got to be the golf. How about you, man? You're already over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I do think it's the game. Like it's, that's kind of what it all centers around. But, we have certainly packed the trip with a lot of really fun stuff. Like I mentioned, Karen and I went to the concert last night, went to a Premier League game, and I was trying to like contextualize like how big that one was, like 2 teams that will both compete in Champions League. Like that's, there's 20 teams in the Premier League and those will be 2 top 4 teams. So there's less teams. So this is not the perfect comparison, but like that's like Alabama, Florida State, just to start first game of the season, starts the season, 2 top 5 teams. It always trips us out. We've been to a couple of international soccer matches, but they have a different entrance for the guests, for like the away team visitors. Like you're not even allowed to walk in together. Imagine if they did that. Like, so they said gates A and B and O are just for Florida fans. Like if you're wearing orange and blue, you got to walk in there, and they don't let them leave at the same time. Like they let all the home supporters leave first, and then the other ones. So like that's been really cool. We're doing some more stuff around London tomorrow, and then spending a bunch of time in Dublin. You talked about the full day tour. We're doing that on Wednesday in Ireland. I'm going to see the cliffs and all that. And then, like you said, Guinness tour, Jameson tour, like all those things, super fun. And then, if you're in Dublin or if you're going to Dublin, or if you know somebody that's going to Dublin, we're hanging out at Temple Bar Porterhouse noon on Friday, noon local time, of course. So come hang out. That'll be like 7 a.m. We'll be drinking beers while you guys are at home at 7 a.m. and maybe we'll stream it or upload something later, but should be a good time. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're locked in. We'll certainly do more content, more stuff coming out this week. Richie, any shout outs before we go?
No, just shout out Brooks again. His 5th live event that he's won and beaten John Rahm in a playoff. Amazing. So shout out Brooks and Florida State Golf.
I haven't seen an update or anything on the soccer team. Oh, it's 3-0 against UNF. So coach at UNF is I believe, a Florida State alum. So big shout out to that program, but looking like the Noles are in good shape. They should go 2-0. And then, man, shout out to all of our listeners and followers. We finally made it to football season, so you guys are the real MVPs, and finally we're here. So we'll see what the setup looks like on Wednesday night. I'll be in a different place because I'll be back in Dublin, so Richie's setup will look different too. It'll be a brand new podcast. But Wednesday night, some kind of preview show for you guys. Thank you for hanging out. We'll talk to you soon. Happy game week. Go Noles.